Hey, Aubrey. How are you doing today? How's
I'm
everything?
great. How are you, Lindsay?
Good. Glad to be on the microphone today. I have a question for you, a hot take question. You
All
ready?
right, let's hear it. Yeah.
All right. So, in English, do you say restaurant or do you say restaurant?
Ooh, that is a good question. I feel like I say both. I think sometimes I'll
Ah,
say restaurant when I'm speaking quickly, and every now and then I will say restaurant. I'll make it three
interesting.
syllables.
Yeah.
So this is really
Huh.
interesting. What about you, Lindsay?
I almost always say, pretty much always say restaurant,
Restaurant, two
because I'm
syllables,
focusing
restaurant.
on what kind of restaurant I want to go to. I'm speaking so
Hmm.
fast. I think, oh, do we want a Thai restaurant, or
I
something
think I say
else?
restaurant, two syllables more as well. But
Yeah.
the interesting question is which is correct?
Yes. Good question. We're gonna find out in this episode, right, Aubrey?
Exactly. This is inspired by one of our students, Jiri. Hello, shout out to Jiri in our Q&A, who noticed on an episode of All Ears English that you and I pronounced this differently. One of us said
Interesting.
restaurant and the other one said restaurant. And so he said,
Yes.
which is correct? I'm like, interestingly, both, right? This is a regional
Yes.
dialect. You'll hear them both in the United States, at least. Neither is wrong.
Yeah, I love when our listeners are listening so closely that they hear those really tiny differences. That means we're doing something right here, and so are our listeners. But Aubrey, this is the first of a two-part series, right?
Exactly, because today we're talking about words that could be pronounced with two or three syllables. And then in
Hmm.
part two, we're talking about words that could be pronounced with three or four syllables. Those are longer words, and you'll definitely want to hit follow. Don't miss that one, because a few of the words we're going to cover, native speakers do drop one of those syllables. And this is a common English learner mistake to add to pronounce all four syllables. So you'll definitely want those details.
Yes, I love it. So let's go through a handful of words today and see, if we can pronounce these with three syllables, or what are the rules here? Okay.
Yes, yeah. And the good news is here for a lot of words like this, both are correct, right? Don't stress
Yeah.
about it. It's not the end of the world. But it
Hmm.
is interesting to know, why native speakers are pronouncing these words multiple ways. So
It
first we
is.
talked about restaurant. That's our first example, right? We went to a
Okay.
great new restaurant last night. Both
Yep.
ways
And
are correct. You will
both ways
hear
are
native
correct.
speakers pronounce this with three syllables,
And maybe
restaurant.
maybe we could pronounce that one more time, the two ways, Aubrey. What would be the first way that you sometimes say? What's
Yeah,
that?
sometimes with three syllables, restaurant, restaurant.
Yeah,
And so it's a
restaurant.
schwa in the middle,
Right.
restaurant.
And with two syllables, restaurant. Restaurant. Okay, so we're really
Hmm.
skipping the schwa sound entirely. Restaurant.
Exactly. Eliminating
Yeah.
that second syllable, making it two syllables, restaurant, which
Okay,
would
what's
make it a
another
little
one?
harder to spell because then you
Right.
you might spell it without that vowel in the middle because it looks like it should be
Yes.
three syllables.
Oh, yeah, we're not even talking about spelling today, but
Right.
a lot of these, when you do, shorten it, the spelling doesn't quite work, or it's
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
That
Okay,
might
what's
be
the next one?
unexpected. All right. The next
Yeah.
one is probably. And we will hear people shorten this to two syllables, probably, especially when they're speaking very quickly. Right.
Yeah.
So, but both are accepted, of course. Either he'll probably be late or he'll probably be late. This is more
Yeah,
about how fast you're speaking.
yeah, this is the kind of word that gets all smushed up, right? I'll
Right.
probably be there. What I say actually is probably. I'll probably be there tomorrow, right? I'll probably be there tomorrow. I skip the B entirely.
Right. That's true. That does happen a lot too. Still two syllables, but we
Yeah,
eliminate the B as
different
well. And it
syllables. Yeah.
almost looks like it would be spelled Prolly. Prolly. Yeah,
Yes.
Prolly.
Yes. Hmm. Strange, right? What about different?
Yeah, different. So again, you could say different. This is spelled like it would be three syllables, most
Hmm.
likely. And I hear that on podcasts, TV shows, more often I hear these squished together and turned into two syllables, different.
Right. Unless sometimes you might hear it in a song, for example, and it makes sense for the cadence of the song, the rhythm, right?
Good point, right? Or maybe a
Yeah.
news anchor who's trying to enunciate very clearly. They might pronounce all three syllables, but
Yeah.
usually we would say, oh, we were on different flights, and we make it
Yeah.
two syllables.
And I think it's important to point out that when different becomes a verb like differentiate, we don't
Mm.
do the same thing. So these rules, what we're telling you, the freedom you have with the 2 or the 3 syllables doesn't apply. You can't say differentiate. You have to say differentiate. We need that middle syllable. Don't you think, Aubrey?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
With differentiate, we pronounce each syllable. But with some
Hmm.
of the other versions of this word, like for example, differently, we will
Differently.
usually make that 3 syllables.
Yeah.
Won't always say differently. It would probably be differently.
Because there's no time at that point. As the word expands and becomes a different part of speech, there's no time to then pronounce that middle syllable, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. So often for these words that we do drop syllables, if we're adding just ly or maybe ing, we'll often keep that syllable dropped. But when it
Hmm.
becomes a word with a totally different meaning, like differentiate, or we're adding more syllables, then that's true.
Hmm.
The pronunciation changes.
Interesting. What about family? Ooh, this is a good one.
Yes, right. So some people will pronounce this 3 syllables, family, and then a lot of people drop that third syllable and they'll say
Yes.
family, family. Do you live close to your extended family?
Right. And again, you hear the family more in kind of a sing-songy way. I feel like when you hear songs or poems, do you agree with that, Aubrey?
Yeah, that
Commercials.
happens a lot. Like you said, for the
Yeah.
cadence, right? If you're
Yeah.
needing a certain speaking rhythm, or if
Mhm.
someone is maybe reading from a script, they might say
Yes.
it differently. But in general conversation, daily conversations, often this
Yeah.
is about ease of speech, quickness of speech that we drop that syllable.
Mm. Did you ever used to watch the show Family Matters with Steve
Yes, I
Urkel?
loved with Urkel. I loved Family Matters. That's a great
Me
show.
too, me too. It makes me think I think they had an intro song it was either that or Step by Step with Danny Tanner. Was that Step by Step? Did you watch that one too?
Danny Tanner was Full House,
Full
right?
House,
Yes, we're
yes.
getting all of our 80s, 90s shows
We are. Yeah, we
confuddled.
overlap there for sure, but these
Funny.
are, a lot of these shows that we loved in the '80s were based on families, right? Living in a house in San Francisco, so the intro would zoom in on the home, and usually they would use the word family in the intro song, and I could
Mhm.
see in that sing-songy way saying family, right?
Yes.
Family.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
It's interesting in the
Yes.
song, but then when people said the name of the show,
Right.
Family
Family
Ties,
matters.
Family
Yeah.
Matters, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm glad
Family
you brought that
ties.
up because it gave you the chance to say the word plural. You said families, and same
Yep.
goes for that. We don't always say families. We often will drop that middle syllable still when it's
Right.
plural and say families.
So, as we said, as the word gets longer and more cumbersome, there's less time to pronounce that middle syllable. And I'm glad you mentioned Family Ties. That's another great one with Michael J. Fox as like a
Yes.
baby, total
Right.
baby, 22-year-old
So
or
young.
something. Oh my gosh, so good.
I know I watched there was
Um,
a documentary about his life and it showed how he
yes.
got that job. It's fascinating. I can't remember which streamer it's on, but if you have a
Ah,
chance to watch it, it's really fascinating.
really good stuff. We have to recommend our listeners to go back and watch these amazing shows from the '80s because they're a
Yes.
fun reflection of culture at that time, you know?
Yes, but it makes
Yeah.
me think of there just like with differentiated, there are other
Mhm.
forms, other versions of these words like familial, and you couldn't drop that middle syllable because
Mm.
it's a different meaning. It's said in a different way, so we couldn't drop that and say familial. It wouldn't even be really difficult to
Right.
even say.
Okay, so we're just really talking about these shorter forms of the word, usually nouns most of the time. Okay, let's move on to the next one, Aubrey.
All right, the next one is every. And
Hmm.
so, really, it could be every. And sometimes people will pronounce this with 3 syllables, but often dropping that middle syllable will say
Yep,
every. He runs at least a
every.
mile every morning.
Exactly. And again, in the sing-songy way, I could hear someone say every day, something like that. It's
Yes,
probably
right. If you need it
something.
to be 3 syllables in a song or a poem,
Yes.
every day.
Yes,
Or if
exactly.
you
We
want
don't
to
know what we're
emphasize,
singing
right?
from
If you want
what.
to say, every
Yes.
day I do this.
Yeah, but even if I emphasize that actually, if I were trying to say, "Hey, I do this every day," I would still honestly not, I
Yeah.
would not use the 3 syllables. I'd say every day, every single day. I would use another word like single to
Totally,
emphasize.
and
I would
definitely
not
in
stretch
just
it out that
regular
way.
conversation, it's
Yeah,
always just every,
yeah,
right? The only
yep.
time you would hear that is if someone every now and then with these words, because they are 3 syllables, someone will intentionally, for emphasis or to be funny or something, they'll be
Mhm.
like, "Every time I do the" right? They'll intentionally pronounce
Yes.
all 3 syllables for some reason,
That's
but that's
another
not in
good
just,
point.
like, regular conversation.
No, that's another good point though, People do and that's kind of trendy right now that people and I think it's a little condescending when people do it, but they do it. They pronounce every syllable of a word when they're do you know what I'm saying here? Do you know
Yes,
the
I know what you're
yes.
saying. When normally we
Yes.
wouldn't in a
Yes.
conversation, but for some reason it might be to be condescending. Yes, like sometimes you're
Yes.
slowing down your speech almost to imply that the other person needs you to
It's
speak more slow.
condescending.
Who knows? There could be any kind of reason.
Yep. I was listening to Pod Save America over the weekend, and I think it was John Favreau or one of the other hosts, it's pretty famous, was interviewing Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban's ideas on politics are very optimistic, right? Because he's never been in politics. And the way that the co-host of Pod Save America was talking to Cuban was doing that. It was a little condescending. It was pronouncing the syllables, and I was getting annoyed because I was like, "You're a Washington insider. Listen to some different ideas, you know?"
Oh, that's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's
That
okay. I
one's going to
don't
come
feel
up
that
on
you're
part 2. Interesting.
anyways, good stuff. So listen for this, guys, in podcasts, movies, TV shows, little jingles at the beginning of a show. You'll hear it. Really interesting. What else, Aubrey?
Yeah,
We have
yeah,
more,
good
though.
point. Yes, we have a few
Yeah.
more here. So chocolate, right, is
Mm-hmm.
just actually spelled and is 3 syllables, chocolate, but rarely
Mm-hmm.
will you hear it that way. We almost always drop it and say chocolate.
Yeah, exactly. And then camera. I rarely hear camera.
Mhm.
Camera is what I say. Huh?
Yeah, I also just say camera. It's also interesting to think about these might be different in other English-speaking countries. This is very much US
Sure.
American pronunciation.
Yes. Yes. 100%. And then memory. Do we hear it any other way?
I say memory,
I
2
have no
syllables.
memory of that. Yeah? Is
Yeah,
that
so
how
you
you would
could
say
say
that
memory. You
phrase?
could say
Mhm.
memory, 3 syllables, same
Mhm.
plural, memories, or you can
Yes.
drop that middle syllable and say memory or memories.
Yeah. Yeah, it's personal pronunciation quirk, right?
Yep.
Sometimes we do
Mhm.
this. We all have our own way of pronouncing. And then favorite or favorite, right? Favorite. Just for me, it takes too long. I just
A
want to
lot
speak
of it's
faster.
especially because we're talking about, just regular conversations for the most part, that's when we're speaking quickly, we're dropping these syllables.
Yes, exactly. And then one more. What is it, Aubrey?
Business, which
Mm-hmm.
really is 3 syllables, business, but we rarely say that. We really usually pronounce this 2 syllables, business. She's completing a business degree.
Mm-hmm. Or that's none of my business. Yeah. It's almost always the 2 syllables. Love it.
Exactly, which makes it more difficult to spell because there's that I that's basically silent, right? Business.
Exactly. English is not spelled the way it's spoken.
Exactly.
All right, Aubrey, let's finish up our episode today with a fantastic role play. So here we are cousins working in a family-owned restaurant. Sounds fun, right? Sounds
Yeah,
good.
let's use a bunch of
Yeah.
these. I'll start us
All
out.
right. Okay.
Every time I walk in here, I still smell grandma's marinara sauce. It's probably my favorite smell.
Same. That smell is a memory in itself. I can't believe this place still feels the same after all these years.
Yeah, it's impressive when a family-owned restaurant is able to stick around so long. I think it helps that we try to keep it authentic, just with a few different touches now and then.
As long as that chocolate souffle stays on the menu, I don't think we'll ever go out of business.
So true. I saw someone bust out a camera and take a photo of it last night. I'm not surprised. The presentation is gorgeous.
Oh, makes me want to try it.
I know, right? It sounds delicious.
Yeah, right. I love it.
We used all of
What do
them
we
here,
use
I
here?
think.
Ooh, nice.
Impressive.
So we started with every time I walk in there. I mean, did you say every or every here, Aubrey, when
I
you
think I
said
just
that
said
one?
every. I was trying to just say these how I normally would, right? Every time
Okay.
I walk, but it wouldn't be incorrect to say
Mm-hmm.
every time I walk in here, but that wouldn't be my personal pronunciation or from the region that I'm used to, right? Both Arizona and the Northwest. Also, it is about what we hear most on podcasts, TV, movies that
Yeah.
have the American accent. A lot of these, what we're saying, this is what native English speakers say. That's what we hear most often as well.
Oh, for sure. I love it. And then you said it's probably my favorite smell. And I know you shortened to 2 syllables for probably. What about favorite?
Yeah, I think I did find myself kind of saying favorite.
Really?
But
Okay. Favorite. So
yeah,
3.
like as I
Okay.
said it, I was like, "Oh, it's probably my favorite
Favorite.
smell."
Yeah.
So
That
I
one you
think I
can
use
kind of,
both
yeah.
for that.
That one feels a little more natural. 2
Mhm.
or 3 in my
Mhm.
mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And then you said that smell is a memory in itself, or memory. I think you probably said it 2 syllables, memory.
Yeah, probably. The smell's a memory in itself. Memory.
Oh, it's kind of 3 there, isn't it?
No, 3, not memory. No, wow, it's so it's somewhere in between. It's 2.5, Aubrey. It's
I
two
know
and a
it's
half
true. It kind of
syllables.
is 2.5 because you're sort of saying all 3, but so quickly that the one
Yes,
almost gets assimilated. Interesting.
exactly. 2.5 is my answer, all right? That's
Yes.
good. Okay,
And then I said it's
next one.
impressive when a family owned restaurant. So family as 2 syllables and also restaurant.
Mhm.
I definitely said there as 2 syllables.
And then you said, I think it helps that we try to keep it authentic, just with a few different touches now and then. And you could have said just with a few different touches now
Mhm.
and then, but do you have time for it? Is the
Right. We're
question,
saying it
right?
quickly, right? With the cadence of our speech. And then you said, as long as that chocolate souffle stays on the menu. This is rare that I hear anyone pronounce this 3 syllables. Chocolate souffle
Yes.
would sound a little strange, but it's possible, right? Depending on
Right.
someone's speech.
Or like we said, possibly in different English accents globally could
Exactly.
could be could be valid. Then you said so true. I saw someone bust out a camera and take a photo of it last night. So I didn't say camera, or you didn't say camera, right? Or did you?
Nope, I said camera. I always say that's 2 syllables, camera. I think
Yeah.
chocolate, camera, and business are the 3 that I don't know that I've ever heard someone say with 3 syllables, possibly, right? But much more rarely.
Yes. What should we leave our listeners with today? This has been an interesting episode, something a little different today.
Yes, I know pronunciation in English is really interesting, especially where there's often no right or wrong answer, right? There are regional dialects all over the world from different countries, and even within a country, a lot of different options. So I'm excited about this series, right? Today, you're finding out a lot of these 3 syllable words that we actually pronounce with 2 syllable words. And you'll definitely want to
Mhm.
hit follow for the follow up with 3 or 4 syllable words.
Yeah, and for me, I think a big takeaway here is listening for the context of where a word is placed. We've talked today about jingles at the beginning of sitcoms, songs, condescending language on a podcast. I mean, the syllables can be placed and used in different ways depending on what we're trying to do. Are we just getting the message across, or are we trying to rhyme or create a certain rhythm in what we're saying? So be ready to see a word appear in different places differently.
Yes, that's such a good point, right? And observe language as you're hearing it. Is it different in a song depending on the cadence or in just a regular conversation? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, really interesting. All right. So, as Aubrey said, hit the follow button for the next part of this 2-part series. Aubrey, have a good day.
You too. See you next time.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.